On this Monday night, Canada's new cap on international students.
We're very worried that it's too broad a brush.
How long the limit will last, the problems it's supposed to solve, and the potential repercussions. Dementia in Canada, how it's expected to become more common in people under age 65. He was a master craftsman.
It's very difficult to make films.
The loss of Canadian movie-making genius Norman Jewison. And when politics collides with prayers, the controversy over this new Hindu temple in India, plus tall order. Benito the Giraffe's long journey to greener pastures.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. The federal government is putting a temporary cap on the number of international students allowed to come to Canada. It's an attempt to try to ease the pressure on strained public services. The number of international student permits will be reduced by 35%. The cap means roughly 364,000 permits will be issued this year. That's down from 560,000 in 2023. Since 2014, the number of foreign students in Canada has been steadily increasing, and there has been a significant jump since the pandemic. There are now more than 1 million study permit holders in Canada. The government says it's targeting so-called bad actors, private colleges that charge high tuition for low-quality education, and it wants to ease pressure on health care and housing. Abigail Bimman explains the plan and the reaction in our top story tonight.
Once they graduate, will they be able to do something?
Zayed Gad grew up in Dubai and earned his bachelor's degree at Carleton University in Ottawa. Now he's a banker. He's frustrated the new cap could limit opportunities for other foreign students.
Most of them have came from countries that are going through struggles. They're looking for a new future over here. And apparently the minister does not want to give them the chance, claiming that it's because of the housing.
Allowing bad actors to continue their operations would be a disservice to all the good institutions who pride themselves in providing a top-tier academic experience.
The immigration minister calls these blunt measures aimed at the schools putting profits ahead of education. Master's and PhD students are exempt. The housing minister says we can expect more moves to tackle the housing crisis, but believes this will help.
In certain pockets of the country, the Peel region, for example, you may end up seeing a bit of an alleviation of the pressure that people have seen as a result of the significant influx of international students over the past few years.
The growth in international students.
One of the economists advising cabinet at the Montreal retreat thinks the cap will reduce pressure on both rental and owner markets.
Overnight, investors say, you know what, the student market doesn't look as attractive as it did before. We're going to we're going to start buying up fewer homes, and that's going to create places for first-time home buyers to buy immediately.
Some in the education sector applaud the second part of Monday's announcement, new limits on work permits after graduation, while worrying about maligning international students within the overall cap, especially in more populous provinces. Ontario's numbers will be cut by as much as 50%.
We're very worried that it's too broad a brush with how it's being used.
We need skilled labor to build houses, and we don't have enough of it in Canada. It's really important that we don't scapegoat international students as being the cause of the problem.
The immigration minister is aware of those concerns and says he'll work with provinces looking for exemptions for some trade schools. Of course, so much of this is up to the provinces and will come out in the details how and where to hand out their allotted numbers. Donna?
Abigail Bimman in Montreal. Thanks, Abigail. There's a new snapshot of how Alzheimer's and dementia is affecting Canadians. While age is the strongest risk factor, the Alzheimer Society of Canada says one demographic is being overlooked: younger adults. Young-onset dementia is the term used when symptoms develop in people under the age of 65. Using computer models, the Alzheimer Society predicts by the year 2050 there could be over 40,000 people under 65 living with dementia in Canada. A lack of awareness about young-onset dementia can lead to things like delayed diagnosis. Katherine Ward explains the impact that can have.
From my perspective, she is my life. I will do anything for her.
Pasha Qureshi is talking about his wife, Ruby. Their marriage of more than 45 years has stood the test of time.
This is my early childhood.
3 children and 8 grandchildren are their most treasured joys. But there have been recent, unexpected challenges.
It was a bombshell for us.
3 years ago, at the age of 64, Ruby was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. Her uncle and father had also lived with the disease.
I knew what's going to be happen to me. And I had everything very clear. So I decided that not to get frustrated. What it is, it is. I have to figure out how to deal with it.
Anyone under the age of 65 who receives a diagnosis has what's referred to as young-onset dementia. Approximately 3% of the people living with dementia in Canada fall into this category.
It's also not recognized by the healthcare system as well. If you're, say, 55 and you develop some cognitive impairments, it might not be clear that you immediately need to think about, is it this dementia that's affecting this individual?
28,000 people under age 65 were living with dementia in 2020. As more about the disease is uncovered, that number is projected to reach more than 40,000 by the year 2050, according to the Alzheimer Society of Canada.
The opportunity that we're given now is to be proactive.
We need to recognize, identify those people who should have a diagnosis so we can provide the supports and the education so they can live well with dementia.
Ruby now makes notes for herself and keeps to a routine. Together, she and her husband are determined to face the diagnosis head on, side by side.
He's my life.
She said that I'm not going anywhere. So we help each other.
Katherine Ward, Global News.
Police in Ontario say they've recovered 52 stolen vehicles worth more than $3.2 million, and 11 people are now facing 96 charges. Police say the group targeted high-end vehicles and intended to traffic them as far away as Azerbaijan and Georgia. The vehicles were stolen across southern Ontario and then stored in residential areas. Vehicle theft is on the rise, especially in Quebec and Ontario. In the U.S., there is a showdown shaping up in New Hampshire, a pivotal primary that could be Nikki Haley's last chance to prevent Donald Trump from becoming the Republican presidential nominee.
And it's a joy for me to be able to say to you, ladies and gentlemen, the next president of the United States, Nikki Haley.
That was Judge Judy delivering her verdict last night. She is campaigning for Haley. Trump, though, has drained the political life out of all his rivals, and now it's a contest between him and Haley. Jackson Proskow is in New Hampshire tonight.
The crowds still come to see Donald Trump. Lining up for hours in the bitter cold to hear from a man with an unshakable grip on his party.
I really feel like Trump is the only one that can potentially change the entire trajectory of where things are going right now.
In New Hampshire, Trump's frontrunner status is hardly in question. His supporters wonder why there's a primary race at all.
I am hoping that Trump kills it like he did last time.
I think he's going to do very, very well, to be honest.
On the trail, Trump seems like a man who isn't worried much about winning.
We will soon be taking the oath of office on the steps of the United States Capitol.
On the other side of the state, at a rally for Nikki Haley,
she gives me hope.
A different group of Republicans believes this is still a fight for the party and the country.
Governor Haley is one of the best people that have ever run for the presidency of the United States.
Haley's supporters include moderate Republicans and, yes, even Democrats who just want a Trump alternative.
America doesn't do coronations. We believe in choices. We believe in democracy, and we believe in freedom.
Do well enough in New Hampshire and she can keep up the fight. A poor showing could hand the nomination to Trump almost immediately.
We started this as an anti-Trump organization.
That's why progressive groups are pushing New Hampshire's large base of independent voters to back Haley in the primary.
It's better for our country if it's a Haley-Biden race where you have two candidates committed to democracy.
Toppling Trump is no small task. Even if Haley does the impossible here, the states that come after New Hampshire will be tougher to win. There's a new dynamic in Tuesday's primary now that Ron DeSantis has dropped out of the race. His supporters are more likely to back Trump, making it that much harder for Nikki Haley to achieve the breakthrough she's been looking for in New Hampshire. Donna?
Jackson in Manchester, New Hampshire. Thanks, Jackson. There are reports Israel is proposing a 2-month pause in fighting in Gaza as part of a multi-phase deal with Hamas that would include the release of all remaining hostages. The proposal, said to be handled by mediators from Qatar and Egypt, has not been confirmed by either side. Military operations have intensified in Khan Yunis in southern Gaza. Explosions and gunfire could be heard throughout that city as Israeli tanks moved around buildings. There are reports a hospital there has been surrounded. The Hamas-run health ministry says more than 25,000 Palestinians, many of them women and children, have been killed in Gaza since the conflict began. And families of some of the more than 130 hostages in Gaza broke through security and stormed into a committee meeting in Israel's parliament today. They're demanding the government do more to get their loved ones released, some of them carrying signs saying, "You will not sit here while they die out there." Families have also been rallying outside Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's home. Netanyahu has repeatedly refused to consider the idea of a two-state solution. He's facing growing pressure to reconsider. Today at a meeting in Brussels, EU foreign ministers added to calls for the creation of a Palestinian state, saying it is the only path to peace. They say Israel's plan to destroy Hamas is not working and that it is seeding hate for generations. The U.S. and Britain launched a new wave of military strikes on Houthi militants disrupting commercial shipping in the Red Sea. Earlier today, the Danish shipping giant Maersk said it is diverting its container service away from the Red Sea in response to heightened security risks. The company says the situation is volatile and its vessels will be rerouted, taking the long way around the Cape of Good Hope in South Africa. Canadian director Norman Jewison has died. His publicist says he passed away peacefully on Saturday. He was 97 years old. The acclaimed filmmaker was behind the lens for celebrated movies such as In the Heat of the Night, Moonstruck, and Fiddler on the Roof. Tonight, Eric Sorensen looks back at Jewison's storytelling legacy.
Norman, can we get a photo, please? He was not the most recognizable public figure, but in Hollywood, Norman Jewison was royalty. He won the Academy Award's most prestigious honor, the Irving Thalberg Award, because he made so many films that were inspiring and important.
It's called paying your dues. I mean, it's very difficult to make films. It's very difficult.
They were difficult, but memorable. He directed In the Heat of the Night to the Oscar for Best Film.
Was Mr. Colbert ever in this greenhouse, say last night about midnight?
That was called the most important slap in Hollywood history. Jewison showing a black detective from Philadelphia standing up to the long-accepted racism in the 1960s American South.
I saw it. But what are you going to do about it? I don't know.
To Jewison, it was a natural reaction.
It was one of those things which had to be instinctual, because Sidney was playing a detective.
Jewison's filmmaking was instinctual, searching for the innate truth in the stories he told, whether a comedy that made light of the Cold War or a poignant musical about Jewish peasants.
Sunrise, sunset, swiftly flow the days.
Fiddler on the Roof garnered Jewison one of his 3 Oscar nominations for Best Director. Not bad for a Protestant kid from Toronto. He started in the early days of television directing TV shows in Canada and the U.S. He would go on to work with the biggest stars in the world. His films, an iconic exhibition of titles: The Cincinnati Kid, The Thomas Crown Affair, Jesus Christ Superstar. And in The Hurricane, he was of course drawn to the story of Reuben Hurricane Carter, wrongly accused of murder.
We're looking for 2 Negroes in a white car.
Any 2 will do.
I mean, this man spent 19, 20 years in jail for something he didn't do. It's filled full of courage and hope and inspiration.
Among his triumphs are landmark films of humanity.
Along the way, Jewison coaxed the best from temperamental stars from Steve McQueen to Cher.
Do you love him, Loretta? Ma, I love him awful. Oh, God, that's too bad.
The great thing about Norman as a director, he says, I cast you, therefore, let me see what you surprise me.
Okay.
A distinctly Canadian legacy that will live on is Jewison's founding of the Canadian Film Centre near his farm north of Toronto. It's been developing the next generation of movie makers for more than 3 decades.
To build this place, and I'm so grateful and proud that we in Canada have done this.
Jewison hoped what moved him would inspire future filmmakers.
So just tell stories that move us to laughter and tears and perhaps reveal a little truth about ourselves.
To Norman Jewison, filmmaking wasn't about fame and fortune, but simply finding a good way to tell a good story. Eric Sorensen, Global News, Toronto.
Calls for action in Nova Scotia. Coming up, a grieving mother's push to improve the province's emergency alert system. The mother of 6-year-old Colton Cisco, who died in floodwaters in Nova Scotia last summer, wants changes to the province's emergency alert system. The day her son died, torrential rain was causing flash floods. It took nearly 2 hours for an alert to go out. 4 people were killed that day, including Colton. Heidi Petrachik spoke with his mom about what she believes could make the difference between life and death.
This is Colton's room. I have some stuff that I've set out, like his little Timbits jersey.
Colton Cisco's bedroom is almost as he left it. The 6-year-old died in the pre-dawn hours of July 22nd, swept away as he and his father fled floodwaters before an emergency alert told residents to stay home. An alert that took officials close to 2 hours to issue.
There's no need to keep the public waiting in the dark when their lives are at risk.
The bodies of Colton and 3 others, including another child and a teen, were found by searchers several days later. His mother, Tara Cisco, has pushed the province to speed up its alert process ever since.
I'd like to see a first responder being able to reach out to someone who can go, all right, leave it with me and I'll get it handled, and it will go out. Not a 6-step system.
The provincial government hasn't made any changes yet. It's not the first time Nova Scotia's alert system has come under scrutiny. After the flood, the Premier directed the Emergency Management Office to ask communities and first responders what could improve.
Speed is, of course, important, but making sure that whatever changes are implemented bring tangible benefits. That's really the focus.
We don't have 2 hours, 3 hours, to wait for that alert to go out. We have 20 minutes. Sometimes not even that.
Volunteer firefighter Brett Tatanish asked for the alert the night of the flood as he responded to rescue calls, only to be left waiting. He's also disappointed the province hasn't moved more quickly, still haunted by what happened.
The amount of time it took for that alert to go out, I feel that lives may not have been lost if the alert was out in a timely manner.
I have moments where I just want to cry all day, and moments where I'm like, nope, I got to keep going.
Cisco is dealing with her grief partly by advocating for better emergency preparedness in a campaign she's dubbed Colton's Call. Heidi Petrachik, Global News, Martok, Nova Scotia.
Ahead, religious tension. A Hindu temple opens in India on a contested holy site. There's fanfare and controversy in India over the opening of a new Hindu temple. Prime Minister Narendra Modi presided over the event, and his critics are accusing him of stoking religious tension. The temple sits on top of the ruins of a 16th century mosque. Once again, here's Eric Sorensen.
It's being compared with Mecca or the Vatican. The Rah Temple represents the newest shrine for more than 1 billion Hindus in India, built on what they believe is the birthplace of the deity Ram. The joy felt when Ram was born, he says. We are feeling the very ecstasy. The temple was consecrated not by a religious leader, but by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, declaring our Lord Ram has come. Modi performed the rituals and made a prayer offering at the feet of Lord Ram's idol, demonstrating the bond between the state and Hinduism in a country that until recent years had celebrated religious diversity separated from politics.
It is the politicization of a religious event. The full force of the state is behind the consecration, the construction of this temple. And in that sense, it violates India's constitution.
The disputed site was once home to the Babri Mosque, constructed by Muslims 500 years ago. But Hindu nationalists stormed the mosque in 1992, reduced it to rubble. Hundreds of Muslims were killed, their homes destroyed in the days after. For Muslims who prayed nearby, today is one of despair. Everyone carries the grief of the mosque being demolished, says this man. The pain of that day will always be fresh, says another. But as many Hindus believe their own shrine was there first, India's courts eventually approved construction of the temple.
To have back this temple, I think for India, it's something amazing.
The temple is not finished, but this early ceremony may boost Narendra Modi's bid for re-election this spring, fueled by the intense nationalism he's promoted.
Many democracies now are dealing with this ethno-nationalist movements, and so this is a great concern. India matters because it's the world's largest democracy.
The fear among some is that today's ceremony is just the beginning, that nationalists will try to create new temples on other disputed sites with the government's blessing. Eric Sorensen, Global News, Toronto.
On the move next, Benito the Giraffe begins a long journey to a warmer home. A transport truck in Mexico began a long journey today with some tall and precious cargo. That extra tall container is carrying Benito the Giraffe. The 4-year-old is being moved from a zoo in northern Mexico to a conservation park much further south. It's about a 2,000-kilometer journey, and it's expected to take about 50 hours. Benito's 5-meter-tall trailer was specially designed just for him. It has food, water, cameras, and temperature control. The giraffe lived in a small park near Mexico's northern border where it gets cold in winter and very hot in summer. His new home is being described as more like the African savanna. That is Global National for this Monday. I'm Donna Friesen. Tonight's Your Canada is Elk Island National Park near Fort Saskatchewan, Alberta. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you here again tomorrow. Bye-bye.